Okay, this week's Parsha, Acharei Mos-Kedoshim. You can get a chumash. I'm not sure how much we'll be getting into it, but get one. So, Acharei Mos talks about the avoda in the Beit HaMikdash, the Kohen Gadol on Yom Kippur and everything he has to do there, and it has unbelievable, deep spiritual significance. And famously, there's a Rebbe, and he once asked all his Hasidim, his Talmidim, his students, and he said, what's the holiest place in the world? And they said, the Kodesh HaKadoshim, the Holy of Holies in the temple. And they said, what's the holiest time? The Rebbe said, what's the holiest time? And they said, Yom Kippur. He said, and who's the holiest person? They said, the Kohen Gadol. Once a year, Yom Kippur, the Kohen Gadol goes into the Kodesh HaKadoshim. And he said, no, you're wrong actually. The holiest place is here. The holiest time is now. The holiest person, you. You are here to be holy, people. So this week's Parsha goes from Acharei into Kedoshim. Kedoshim. And it says at the very beginning of Kedoshim, which we spoke about a lot yesterday. It says here, Kedoshim tihiyu. You should be Kadosh. David Shlomo. You have to be Kadosh. Because I am holy, Hashem Elokeichem. Now you all know what holy means because we spent half an hour speaking about it yesterday. In one sense it means separate, above, lofty, sanctified, apart. But in another sense it means completely present and immanent, as we say Kadosh, 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 Hashem Sefakot Meloch Al Haaretz Kvodo. Holy, 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 sanctified, Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh. The whole universe is filled with your presence, with your kavod, with your heaviness, with your glory. So everything, the table, everything, the sky, the air, your face, everything is all filled. Hashem's completely immanent. There's no place that is free of Hashem. So Kadosh doesn't mean just separate. It means completely, intimately present. However, spiritually, not drowning and caught up in the physicality, not chasing it, not being defined by it, not being controlled by it, not being made animalistic by it. You can either engage in the physical world just like an animal, just taking for instant physical pleasure, greed and lust, or you could be engaging in the physical world in order to use the physical world that Hashem created to bring spirituality, to uplift the physical to the spiritual, bring the spiritual into the physical. So we said yesterday that means in terms of money. In the East, no money. In the West, more money. Judaism says, you can have lots of money, give 10%, use it to help people. Physical intimacy. In the East, Buddhist monks don't get married. In the West, try to do whatever you can with whoever you can. Judaism says the right person, right time, right intention. In fact, marriage is called Kedoshim, which comes to the word Kadosh. But if Kadosh means separate, marriage isn't about being separate. The opposite, marriage is about intimacy, actually. But in order to have intimacy, you have to separate yourself from every other person. I separate my wife from every other woman. She separates me from every other man. But it's through the separation that we can then build intimacy. Food. Buddhist monks don't eat very much. American, eat all you like. Judaism says eat the right amount of food, and the right food, make sure it's kosher. Say a blessing before, say a blessing after. So basically this is what Kedusha is. Kedusha isn't detaching. It's actually the opposite. It's being intimately present and involved, but with a higher consciousness. That's why we said yesterday that there are these two names of Hashem, which he uses in this pasuk. Ani Hashem Elokeichem. There's Yud and Hey and Vav and Hey, which is Hashem beyond time and space, completely separate and above. And then there's Elokim, which is Hashem within time and space. So it's the mixture of Hashem. He says, Ki Kadosh Ani Hashem Elokeichem. He uses both names. He has to use both names because that's what Kadosh means. You have to be present and above. You have to be in the world but not of the world. So that's what it means, Kadosh. So we'll see.
What do you mean of the world?
Like just when your parents say to you, you've got to live in the real world, man. What do they mean? You've got to get a job, have nice things, get a nice house, be successful. what they call the real world is the least real world there is. The real world is Shabbos and brachas and tefillin and love and joy, and you happen to also need to have a job and pay the bills. That's okay. So a person who is of the world, they're just very involved in physical and material and egotistical aspirations. Whereas we're not. We use the physical material world in order to become more conscious and more spiritual and to uplift the world. And to use the world to uplift ourselves and use ourselves and neshama to bring holiness into the physical act. In fact, Shabbat is the time when it's the holiest day of the year, of the week, and of the year, by the way. We have the holiest day of the year every week, which is very amazing. And that's the day when we engage in physical things. That's a time of intimacy between husband and wife. That's a time of eating more, nicer food, better food. Shalom Aleichem. So this is what we want to be. So we're striving to be walking in a completely different world. What they call the real world, the American dream. We're striving to be walking in a completely different level of consciousness. That we're not separate though. We're not sitting in a cave in a temple, separate from the world. We're here. And you see, we're in politics and business, and we're doctors and lawyers and teachers. And we're in the world, but we're here to uplift the world. We're not in the world just to wallow in it and get temporary physical pleasure from it. We're in the world to use the world to transform the world into an actual spiritual, highly spiritually conscious thing. Which is really, people speak about Mashiach and the Messiah. So we do believe there is a person coming, but it's also a consciousness. We just have a completely different perspective on life. What are you chasing? What are you thinking about the whole time? What do you care about? What are you running after? What do you want? So we want to be running after the right things. So then the Parsha of Kedoshim is full of incredible ways of being in relationship with yourself, others, God, and the world. Judaism is all about relationship. Eastern religion often is like, no, detachment. I'm not gonna relate. I'm not getting married, I'm separating myself. Judaism says, no, the whole purpose of life is a healthy relationship. So there's this Parsha is full of amazing relationship consciousness. And that's what halacha and mitzvahs are. Some people think that halacha and mitzvahs is just a bunch of rules that you have to do to make God happy. But it's not. It's a bunch of rules that you have to follow in order to make sure you're living on the highest conscious spiritual level you can live on. And you're having the most healthy, meaningful relationships you can possibly have. So I've just picked out one of them, out of the many. And we're going to learn a little bit about it. Rav Nassan, who is Rabbi Nachman's right-hand man, main Talmud, is going to expand on this. But we have in Kedoshim, in chapter 19, verse 17, Lo tisna et achicha bilvavecha. You should not hate your brother in your heart. You're not allowed to hate people in general. One of my students said to me yesterday, do I have to love someone who's not nice to me? So I gave him two answers. Firstly, I said, well, you do, because you have a mitzvah in the Torah, v'ahavta l'recha kamocha. You do, which we're going to come up to, by the way. But also, just for your own sake, walking around with hatred and resentment is terrible. So just because they're not nice to you, doesn't mean you have to be not nice to them for your own sake. Even though they deserve it. You're right, they deserve it. They deserve you to be not nice. Doesn't mean you have to be their best friend and go into business with them. Don't. But to still try and find the good and see, it's not their fault. So you should not hate your brother in your heart. So one of the things our sages teach us, which is very, very healthy, it doesn't mean you have to hold it in and just try and deal with it. Don't hate your brother in your heart, which means if you have hatred towards someone, God forbid, go and speak to them about it in a nice way. Speak. Say, look, you hurt me, or I feel something's wrong here, so let's talk about it. So that means you're not keeping it in your heart, you're expressing it. So you've got to see how healthy the Torah is. It's saying you can't bear hatred, but also it's unhealthy for you to walk around with it, so share it, be real with it. And it goes on, it says, et amitecha. You should reprove people. You should reprove people. Do you know what that means? It means that if people are doing wrong things, you should tell them, you know what? It's not good. You shouldn't be doing that. It's not good for you. Because if you really, really love someone, you're not going to let them carry on doing bad things. You want to help them. If you see people behaving in a bad way, then you want to help them. Velo tisa alav chet. But you should not bear a mistake because of him. So one way you can read this is, you should correct your friend's mistakes, because if you don't, you're somewhat held responsible for them. If you could have said something to help someone, and you don't, you're somewhat responsible for them. So we have a mitzvah from the Torah to give people reproof. But you have to be very, very, very careful. And this is where Rabbi Nassim comes in. אין לך דבר שהבעל דבר יוכל להטות את האדם להפוך עבירות גמורות למצוות כמו בעניין המחלוקת. There is nothing that is as subtle and refined that your Yetzer Hara can make you think that you're actually doing a mitzvah when you're not. You're doing an avera. You're actually doing something really, really, really bad, but in your mind you think you're doing a mitzvah as machloket, as disagreements with people. So you might think, well, I have a mitzvah to reprove people. And now you're going to go around to everyone and say, hey, you shouldn't be doing that, you shouldn't be doing, and turn into a very, very judgmental person and put people down all the time. So the Gemara actually says, and this is back in the time of the Gemara, that there's no one who really can do this mitzvah. Because in order to do the mitzvah of Hocheach Tocheach, it has to be coming from a place of absolute love and care. I'm saying this to you because I really, honestly, truly, in a pure way, love you and care about you, and I want the best for you, so I want to help you. Which means you definitely can't give reproof to someone who hurt you. Because when you're giving them reproof, even in a way you think that I'm doing it to help them, you're not. You're doing it because you're hurt. So if your reproof comes from a place of hurt, pain, anger, resentment, it's not a mitzvah, it's an avera. And that's why I actually said, the end of the sentence says, you could bear a sin because of how you gave reproof. If you give it in public, for example, if you embarrass someone in public, it's a terrible, terrible thing to do. Does this mean you can't have a conversation? No, we just said, if you have hatred in your heart, go and speak about it. But that's not reproof. That's saying, I felt upset by what you did. This is very important in your marriage. You're going to have your wife. My wife and I, we haven't argued. We've married nearly 16 years. We haven't had one argument. The reason we haven't had one argument is because when we're upset or we disagree on something, we don't put each other down. We don't say you're wrong. We don't criticize each other. We never say anything negative to each other. What we do is we share how we feel. I feel, when you did that or when you said that, I felt this. I'm not even blaming you for how I feel, by the way. It might be my own oversensitivity or my childhood. But we express how we feel rather than pointing a finger and saying, you did that. That's very, very, very healthy communication. But that's not reproof. I've never given my wife reproof. That would be a terrible thing to do, especially if it's something that I was hurt in some way. But there is a mitzvah of helping people. So the reproving people is, because I love you, I want you to change for your own benefit. I just care about your own benefit. So you got to be very, 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 very careful. Yes?
I read somewhere a few weeks ago that if somebody is potentially harming others and many people tell them privately that what you're doing, your actions are wrong, and then clearly in the private they don't fix their actions when they're told privately, you're actually allowed to embarrass them publicly.
Okay, you're mentioning an idea that if someone has been told very, very, very many times, in private you need to improve and he doesn't, you're allowed to say it in public to embarrass him. There is an idea like that because maybe that will actually help. But even when someone's doing that, it's because he's not listening, so maybe the public embarrassment will help him. So there is that. You just don't want to be the one to do that. Let someone else do that. Don't be like, well, I'm going to go and do that mitzvah then. I learned about it. You don't want to ever embarrass anyone. Let someone else do it. There's many things that you don't want to do. You don't want to be a bearer of bad news. If you find out someone passed away, or someone got divorced or something, you don't want to, even if it's not Lashon Hara, did you hear this person's mother passed away? They'll find out. You don't want to be bringing that into the world. Unless that can help someone, by the way. You're the only one who knows, and he doesn't know. But I'm not telling people bad news. They'll find out eventually.
Well, what if the public embarrassment could help other people?
That's fine. Let someone else do it. That's exactly what I'm saying. Even if there's a mitzvah to publicly embarrass him, and that would actually help him in the long run, you don't want to be the one to do that. Stay away from that.
Is there a reason why?
Yes, because you don't want to embarrass the Jew. Even to help him. Now, if you have to, by the way, if there's no one else to do it, and there's no way, then you can go. Then you have to go. But you don't want, if you're like, let me do it, that says something very bad about you.
No.
That you have.
Let's say this person physically harms other people. And you
No, whatever the case is, do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Don't volunteer to embarrass a Jew. There's a story, it just reminded me of the story, separate. There was I forget the names often. So there was a big tzaddik, he lived in Bnei Brak, and then there was a boy, and he didn't have anywhere to live. So the tzaddik said, you can stay in my house for a bit. So the boy said, well, can you wake me up in the morning? Because the tzaddik got up very early. He goes, could you wake me up in the morning on time for praying or something? And the tzaddik said to him, I can't say I will do that. But if I don't want to say that. So he didn't wake him up. Next morning he didn't wake him up. And basically it turned out, he said, why aren't you waking me up? I want you to. And he goes, I know you want me to. But for that first second when you wake up, you're going to feel a little bit like, upset. I don't want to cause any pain or upset. Very subtle, very sensitive. So if you're Mr. I'll be the one. You know what? Someone deserves lashes. So let me be the one. It says something about you. You want to it needs to be done. Don't do it unless you have to do it. So the Baal Davar, the Yetzer Hara, gets you a lot in. Well, I'm doing the right thing. I'm justified in what I'm saying. And so you think it's a mitzvah, and then you might be wrong, by the way, often. But even if you're not wrong, you got to understand you're here to have good relationships with people. Chavetz Chaim was very, very big on machlokas. If there's any machlokas, one of his students came, famous, and he lived in a neighborhood in Jerusalem, and he made aliyah, and the Chavetz Chaim said to him before he left, just run from machlokas. And he came, and they were arguing over who was going to be the gabbai of the shul or something. And then for Shabbat, they went to this tzaddik's house. He wasn't there. And only the next Sunday, they found out that he just left. He went to live in Jaffa. He was like, I got to run. I don't need to be around machlokas. Some people love machlokas, by the way. They're like, yeah, did you hear this? So I'm very interested. I like that. We want to stay away from it. I left the shul that I was davening in because people were arguing. I was like, I just don't need to be around this. It's very easy to say, well, I'm doing the right thing. I'm standing up for Hashem. I'm telling everyone what to do. He's doing the wrong thing. I'm going to tell him. But you're not really doing a mitzvah. So you think, wow, it's such a big mitzvah that I'm telling everyone what to do and I'm helping them all the time. Hey, you shouldn't daven like that. And you're doing like that. And you don't want to be that person. This is a very often thing. This is a very well-known fact. There's no one who doesn't have any lackings. So you could go around and point out lackings to everyone all the time. Everyone's got lackings. We are commanded not to look for the bad in people. Now there's some people, by the way, who you don't need to look for the bad. It's quite obvious. They're behaving quite badly or they're doing bad things. But we're told you need to ignore that. Some people are the opposite. Some people, they're decent people, but low people try to find something bad. I'm sure there's something wrong with them. They're looking for the nakuda ra in them. But we're told you have to look for the good. You have a mitzvah to judge people favorably. So if you see someone doing something wrong, you have a mitzvah to say, well, I'm sure there's an explanation for this. I don't understand. Or maybe if I had his upbringing and his past and his stuff, I would do worse than him. You've got to do whatever you can to find. That doesn't mean you have to do business with him once again. But you have to find something good. Rabbi Nachman speaks about this a lot. Says you've got to find the nakuda tova. Afilu ala choteh, even on someone who's mamish a sinner, he's actually sinning. The Torah says you have to judge him favorably. And you cannot embarrass people in public. It's amazing. And you'll see yourself. Are you the sort of person who just naturally, even if you don't say it out loud, judge people? If you walk in a room, you're a little bit uncomfortable, you judge people. Or do you walk in the room and you just have love? I just love everyone. Are you I love everyone until proven wrong, because then he did something bad? Or I distrust and look for the bad in everyone until I become friends with them? That says a lot about yourself. If you're okay with yourself, then you're generally okay with other people. You should love others as you love yourself. That means you have to love yourself first. The more you actually like yourself and feel good about yourself, the more you're going to love other people. And then it says here, carries on, it says, Lo tikom, lo tito. You're not allowed to take revenge, and you're not allowed to bear a grudge. Very, very high levels. You're not allowed to take revenge. So one of them is, let's say someone lends you his hammer, and then the next day, you go to ask someone if you can borrow his hammer, and he says you can't borrow his hammer. The next day he comes and says, can I borrow your ladder? If you say, well, no, because you didn't give me your hammer, you went over on a mitzvah from the Torah. You're not allowed to do that. You can't take revenge. You have to give it to him. But there's something else. If you say this, yeah, you can borrow my ladder because I'm not like you. You're over on a mitzvah from the Torah. You can't bear a grudge. Very, very difficult. Very difficult. You have to give the ladder b'simcha.
Saying nothing?
The opposite. Of course you can borrow my ladder. I love you, man. You're now doing an amazing mitzvah by doing it. Awesome. Now, just a very quick side point, which isn't a side point at all. The Torah often commands us to feel a certain way. Don't bear a grudge. That's almost impossible. So we said this before, that if God tells us to put on tefillin, we can do it, whether we feel like it or not. Keep Shabbos, you can do it whether you like it or not. Give tzedakah, you can do it. But to tell me to feel a certain way, you have to love Hashem, or you have to love every Jew. How can you command someone to feel something? That's not fair. So the Torah's teaching, no, it is fair, because God believes you can control your emotions. You can train yourself. You can have enough emunah that there's no reason to bear a grudge. Why would you bear a grudge? Everything's happening for you to become a great person. So it's asking for a very, very high level. Now, the internal bearing a grudge, if you do, you're not immediately over, you didn't mess up with this mitzvah. It's just what you do with it. So it's natural to bear a grudge. But if you're consciously trying to not bear a grudge, that's already okay. It's not like, bear a grudge, that's it, you're out the game. Then it says this. And you should love your fellows yourself. You should klal gadol b'Torah. It's one of the biggest teachings, is what Hillel says. It's the number one biggest center, core of the whole Torah. You should love your fellows yourself. Ani Hashem. Ani Hashem. I am Hashem. So let's see what he says. Firstly, we have to understand, I'm not going to read this whole piece to you, although it's a beautiful piece, that we're all made up of arba yesodot, earth, wind, fire, and water. So we all have different amounts of earth, wind, fire, and water in our personality. So often a fire person and a water person aren't going to get along, because fire is hot and goes up, water is cold and goes down. They're complete opposites. That's why we say the word for heaven in Hebrew, shamayim, is eish and mayim. When you get eish and mayim, which are complete opposites, but they respect each other and they work together, and that's what shalom is. That's what peace is. Peace isn't when the water puts out the fire. Now we have peace. That's not peace. That's just we got rid of one of them. Or the fire evaporates the water. Peace is when fire and water come together and cook. That's what they do. When we're working together, that's what we want. But you've got to understand that we naturally clash. Our egos clash because we have desires. I have my desires in life. You have your desires in life. Those often clash. So on the ego level of your life, you're going to have arguments, you're going to get upset. Neshamas don't clash. Neshamas, we're all one. We just have love and joy. So if you get a job that I wanted, my ego's upset, my neshama's not upset, because he's like, great, you got a job. I'm so happy. Even a higher level, sometimes if you see someone praying well, or learning well, or growing, or doing mitzvahs, you might become jealous. But if you really are an Eved Hashem, you're working for Hashem, Hashem loves it when people are praying well and doing well. So who cares if it's you or him? You should be happy because this guy is giving Hashem so much nachas. So you shouldn't be jealous of anyone, ever. So v'ahavta l'recha k'mocha.
Repeat what you say.
Egos clash because what you do goes against what I want. I want this girl. I want this money. It speaks a lot about money. He says, you have to love everyone as if he's a part of who you are, because that is part of who you are. The Jewish people, we're all one soul. We're on the fourth level of our soul, we're the same. We've got nefesh, ruach, neshama. That's individual. Chaya, the fourth level of my soul, is your soul. We meet at the fourth levels of our soul. There's one big Jewish super soul called Chaya, and we're all rays of that super soul. So we literally are one being. We are little rays of one being. There's the sun and sun rays. There's the moon and the reflection of the moon in many buckets. So there are many moons in many buckets, but if you go back, we're all one. So when you say v'ahavta l'recha k'mocha, there's different levels of that, by the way. There's you should want for them what you shouldn't want for them what you don't want for yourself. You should want for them what you want for yourself. You should celebrate their victories and their joy. You should feel sad for their pain and all of those things. But there's a higher level, which is they're literally a part of you. We said it the other day. If there's one Jew not making Kiddush, your own Kiddush isn't fully there. It's just not. That's why before we do any mitzvah, we say, I'm doing this b'shem kol Yisrael, for all the Jewish people. This mitzvah that I'm doing, so it works both ways, by the way. If they're not doing a mitzvah, then that affects our collective soul. In fact, even worse, if someone's doing an avera, doing something bad, that affects. But we could do it the other way around. If we're doing a mitzvah, we affect our collective soul. So it's amazing, very powerful. Don't think you're doing your mitzvah for yourself. If you're putting on your tefillin and you say to yourself, I'm putting on my tefillin so I get great reward in the world to come, you're not going to get that great reward in the world to come, actually. If you say, I'm putting on my tefillin because 72% of Jews don't know that what it means to be a Jew, and so I'm pumping up our collective soul for them, all right. I don't care about the reward either, even. Don't care. I care about the Jews. Crazy idea. Just going back to Mashiach, I didn't get through half of what I wanted to get through, but it's good for now. I asked the Rosh Yeshiva, should we want Mashiach to come? And he said, why not? And I said, because our merit comes from our struggle, our free will. So we have free will, do the right thing, do the wrong thing, be physical, be spiritual, and we have this constant struggle, and it's really hard. When Mashiach comes, Hashem is going to be so revealed in the world, we're basically not going to have free will anymore. So we don't really get we don't get as much reward or connection from that, so we shouldn't. And he said to me, the truth is an Orthodox Jew should not want Mashiach to come. For their own sake, I shouldn't. He said, you're exactly right. But you should want Mashiach to come for the ones who aren't connected to God yet. Forget about you and your reward. Why are we praying for Mashiach? Please, Mashiach, come to help all those 72% of Jews who aren't putting on tefillin and aren't keeping Shabbos, because they need that. They need that revelation to get in the game. And it's a team sport. Judaism is a team sport. There's no such thing as doing it on your own. You know what? I'm a tzaddik, I'm just going to do it on my own. You can't. That's why you can't pray alone. You have to pray with 10 people. You just can't do the Kedusha and the repetition of the Kedusha and all the things but Kedusha. The Kedusha, Kedoshim to you, and the priestly blessing and the reading of the Torah. It's only done in a community. If you're praying on your own, you don't read the Torah, you don't have the commandment, nothing holy. There's not that much holiness when you're on your own. It only works when we're together, and the key to working together is don't hate people in your heart, speak about it. Help people by reproving them from a place of love, and then love people like they're yourself because you see they are yourself. Levels. Don't want bad things to happen to people, want good things to happen to people, but on a higher level, we're one entity. The Jewish people, we're one entity. That's why Jewish unity is the key to everything. When we argue, we're done. When we get together, so that's what we're doing. This is the end of days now. I don't know if you quite understand that. All of the prophecies are coming true. Coming back to the land, and the land is going to flourish, and like crazy stuff's happening. So we need to be getting together. And we're the ones who are basically on the front lines, because we're the ones who understand. The 72% of Jews who don't know anything, it's not their fault. They're not bad people at all. They're wonderful, wonderful people. They just don't know. So we have a responsibility to go and empower other people, not by judging them. I say this in all my classes, but when I first got to Aish, someone said to me, if you become religious and then you become judgmental, and you look down on other Jews, conservative, reform, progressive, you did not become religious, you became self-righteous. Because the more you connect to Torah, the more you connect to God, the more you love every Jew. The more you love people, unconditionally. Part of my family. There are some people in my family who don't have the same views as me, not as religious as me. We completely love and respect each other. Our kids play together, we go on vacation together, we love each other. Because we can see beyond those external things, and we can say, no, we're on the same team. And if you have a team where people are arguing in the team, you're going to lose. Final story. I was captain of the football team, soccer team. And this was when I was 8 years old, and I was actually, funnily enough, I was one of the bigger boys in those days. And we used to play in the break, in the recess, basically me and the not so good players against everyone else. Because I was very good. And my team was called Cohen's Crappies. We always won. Why did we always win? Because whatever my team did, some guy on my team fell over the ball, I'd say, amazing. That's amazing. You stopped the ball, you might have fallen over, or you did it. And I built everyone up. I was like, you're amazing. The other team were arguing the whole time. Oh, you idiot, why did you do that? So they had no team there. So once they had no team and they were arguing, they didn't want to pass to each other. My team, I just said, Rabbi Nachman says, find the Nakuda Tova, find anything good in them. So I was like, it's great, amazing. You either let the ball pass or the man pass. Never both together. Take down one of them. You either get the man or the ball and don't get what you do. And we would very often win. Because we've got to uplift people. We have to. As we said at the beginning, it starts with yourself. If you feel good about yourself, then you don't want to put other people down. You want to uplift people. And that's being called Kadoshim to you. Be a bit above. Don't be caught up in the arguments and the pettiness. Be above it. But be involved. Don't not play. You've got to play the game. So you might say, you know what? They're arguing so much, so I'm just going to separate myself and I'm not going to... No. You get in and you uplift the game.